Today's tutorial is a selfish sew. This is something I have been needing for myself for a while now. I have been needing a new wristlet to just carry with me. I really don't carry a big purse when I go out. I just carry a small wristlet that can hold either my cash, my debit card, my phone, driver's license, keys, just things like that. So the one I had was a pattern that was probably written years ago when phones were not very big. The wristlet I've been using just doesn't fit my phone with that huge case that we all have on our phones, or most of us have on our phones. And so when I go to the store and I'm in a hurry and I'm trying to put my phone in there, I have to shove it and pull to get it in. So this has been something I've been wanting to make for a while. So when Kimberly from Puntillas Y Nudos announced in her Facebook group that she was having a contest to hack her La Clarita pattern, I knew exactly what I was doing. I love to hack patterns. It's just something I think is fun. I feel like you get the best amount of use out of a pattern. So it's a money saver, it's a time saver. You get to honor the designer as well. So I was so excited that she's actually encouraging people to do this with her pattern. There's a chance for an amazing prize, so I was all in for it. I am taking the front pocket, that is the clear vinyl part from the La Clarita pattern, and that is what I'm making my wristlet with. So let's go over and look at those pieces. Let me get everything else out of the way. This is the way that front pocket looks. I actually have the templates from Jolie Lee Creations, and so I just pulled out that template from that front pocket piece, the clear vinyl piece, and I cut 4 pieces out from it. Now you can see that this is pretty big, so I'm gonna have plenty of room. If you don't want your wristlet this big, if you're like, hey, that's just too big, you can take that front pocket clear piece, the pattern, and just shrink it down. So you could print it out at maybe like 80% or 85, 75, whatever you need to get that perfect fit. For me, since I had the templates, I'm like, nope, doing it this way. I may possibly use a slightly bigger seam allowance that's called for in the pattern to maybe make it a little bit smaller, but I'm okay with it being just a little bit large. It won't be a problem for me. Since this is for me, I'm going to take a lot of liberties to get the exact type of wristlet I want. So I'm going to have 2 exterior pieces. All of my materials today are from J&R Edwards, so this is a canvas that hasn't released yet but will soon. This is a canvas from an older print. I'm assuming it's still on the website. If it's not, if they don't have it anymore, just let me know and I'll reach out to her and see if she can put it back on the website for a pre-order. She'll do that usually if someone wants something that's not there. So this will be my lining, this will be my exterior. I didn't do anything to this canvas for the lining. It is a very sturdy canvas. It doesn't need anything. It feels like a cotton woven with interfacing already on there, so I'm good to go. For the exterior, I knew I wanted it a little bit protected because I will be putting my phone in there. It will be getting a lot of use. So I did add a layer of fleece on the front and the back. I actually did choose to keep it in the seam allowance. I know my machine can handle it. I know it won't be a problem. Maybe a little bulky or fluffy on the seams, but I'm okay with that. So that's my 2 exterior pieces. I decided on the interior, I did not want a zipper pocket. I never use zipper pockets on my interior. I don't like also when my wristlet has credit card slots, so I wasn't going to do that. But what I did want was a slip pocket on each side. One of my slip pockets I will leave completely open. I will not divide it at all. On the second slip pocket though, I will make a division, not a halfway at the halfway point, but more towards the side. That will be the spot where I will put in my debit card and my driver's license in this wristlet. But if you don't like that option, if you feel like a little uncomfortable with that, or if you have more credit cards or things, you could always make her Chiquita wallet and put it in here, it would fit perfectly fine in this. So plenty of options to do. But for me, my lining will just have a slip pocket. Again, 2 exterior pieces and 2 lining pieces. But I decided I wanted a little bit more. I'm still hacking this pattern to be exactly what I want. When I'm shopping at a store, lots of times I'm in a hurry, it's like kind of hectic there. So I wanted a zipper pocket on the back of this so that I could just, not for my phone won't fit in the zipper pocket. I'm making a zipper pocket that would just be for if I have some cash or coins or my debit card and I just want to slip it in there easily. And so I am adding a zipper pocket on the back exterior, and I'm going to use an overlay, and it will go on. Let me go ahead and show you how it'll look. It'll just go about here. This will be the lining pieces for the zipper pocket on the back. This again is from J&R Edwards. If it's not still on their website, I can find out if we can add this to a pre-order. This is actually a water resistant canvas, and so I definitely don't need to interface this. On the front, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a tag just for a decorative feature. This is one that I thought was cute. I liked it. It resonated with me, so this will be on the front. For the zipper on the top, the main zipper, I'm going to use her zipper tab templates to just make the zipper tab on one side. But on the other side, I want this wristlet to open really wide. If you remember, my main complaint with my other one was that it was hard for me to get my phone in and out. So I'm actually going to pull back the ends of this and make that 90-degree fold. So I will sew this down so that the end that opens will open very wide so that my phone can slip in and out easily on that. Now I have done a lot of tutorials with this method, so I'm not really going to go into detail, but I will just off camera fold down these edges on both sides of this zipper tape, and then I'll sew them down. That's not a 90-degree angle. I'll make sure it's a 90-degree angle, and then I'll just baste it down. I'll add the zipper pull. But before I do anything else, I'll make for sure, since I'm adjusting this, that my zipper tape is going to be able to stay out of this seam allowance. I do not want to sew over these zipper ends when I'm doing that final sew. So whenever I come back, you will see the zipper tab, the zipper pull, and the ends folded down so that this zipper is prepped and ready to go. I'm using some cheap zipper pulls that I found on Amazon. I want to try them out and see if they'll work. They feel a little lightweight and they look a little small, and so I'm wondering if these will work. If I try to put it on this zipper and they do not feel good, I'm abandoning it and I'm not using that, because this is one that I want to use a lot and to last me for a while. I'm just going to try and see. So if I have any hesitations once I add them and if I don't like the way they pull, I will just change and use some higher end zipper pulls for me. I am going to be adding a wristlet strap to this, and I'm using that same fabric for the exterior, but I am starting, like, this is all I have left. So I'm going to have to piece my wristlet strap together. You could use webbing for this step if you want it to be a little bit quicker, but what I will do is I cut out 2 of these pieces and I'm just doing a 1-inch wristlet strap. So I am going to have mine to be the same measurements as Kimberly's once I get it sewn together. But the first thing I'll have to do is I will just have to sew a diagonal and then trim that, and then I'll be able to sew up this wristlet strap just like her pattern directions say. After I get it sewn together, I'll draw that line down the middle and then do a 4-way fold on this wristlet strap. It's a canvas. I'm not adding anything else to it. I feel like it's sturdy enough as it is. And then I will also add a swivel hook. Something I'm going to do differently, another little hack I'm doing, is I'm going to use grommets in this pattern instead of the D-ring connector that she uses. I really like using grommets. This is a bag for me, so I'm doing it the way I want. I will add a grommet to the side that where the zipper is closing, and so I will add 1 grommet there, and I will also add a gate ring. You don't need to add a gate ring with a grommet, but oh my gosh, I just find they're so much easier. The gate ring is something I'm really enjoying a lot of using in my patterns these days whenever I'm using it for me. Using a gate ring makes things so much easier, I feel like. I will attach this to the grommet once I have it installed, so it will stay on this bag. My wristlet strap will then connect to this gate ring, but also my keys can connect to this. I've been using these a lot in other bags I made. You just add it in there. You get them off Amazon and you can add it to any bag. You can add it to the zipper pull. Let's say you have a zipper pull that has an opening in it. You just put it in there and they're just so convenient. So I will do that too. The swivel hook will be added to the wristlet strap still just like normal. And this gate ring will go onto the actual wristlet. I am also going to be using some rivets. I'm going to be using the really tiny rivets just as a decorative feature on the overlay and on this tag on the front. I am also going to use a larger rivet on my wristlet strap just for a little extra security. So when you do a selfish sew, you can kind of just make it however you want. If you want it simple, keep it simple. But if you want a few extra things like I do on this one, since it's going to be my everyday bag, that's what I'm doing. I'm making it exactly the way I want. So fabrics from Jane R. Edwards, tag from Heartwood and Hyde, zipper tape from So Majestic, vinyl from Lauren Mormino, and of course the pattern is from Puntillas Y Nudos. The templates are from Leslie from Jolie Lee Creations. So getting to use this bag on a daily basis is like having all my friends and all the businesses that I care about and support always with me. So it's just a fun way to do it. So I'm very excited to sew this up. Now that we've got all the pieces figured out, I'm going to go off camera. Oh, wait, forgot one thing. I am adding piping to this bag. Sorry, almost forgot and just looked over and saw it. I'm doing a row of piping all the way around this wristlet just because I love piping and I think it'll be just such a pretty look. I am choosing white. I probably will regret that because guess what's going to happen? The white will get dirty or dingy, but it's okay. I'm going to risk it because I want just that little pop of whiteness. If I look through my stash and see a yellow, I could possibly shift this and go with the yellow, but I'll have to look and see. I am going to come back with my tag attached to my front, with my zipper ready to go and my wristlet strap ready to go. Everything else we'll do together on camera. Just going to do some of that prep work off camera. So good news and bad news. Good news is I found a yellow that I can put over my piping to have a little bit better color of piping so it'll match better, and plus it won't show dirt as easy. So that's good. I'm going to make my piping for that instead of using just the white. I did add my rivets onto this tag, placed the tag, everything's good with it. This is the front exterior. So bad news is on my back exterior, I was going to put a woven tag here from Puntillas Y Nudos, and I scoured my room and cannot find the one that I got from them. So I'm not adding a label onto this one. Very sad about that. It happens. It's okay. I'm trying to move on. I cried a little. But anyway, I was going to put a tag right here from them, so I'm not going to add any tag on the back. I did add just a little bit of glue here on the sides just to mark where that placement's going to be. So what I'm going to do first with this exterior overlay is I'm just going to stitch around the perimeter of the exterior. I am leaving my corners squared, but you could definitely round those. After I sew around that perimeter, then I will just cut away this extra fabric so you can't see it. I'm going to add a rivet into each corner, and then I'll come back and show you that after we do that. But the first thing I'll do is sew it. So I'm going to do the sewing now. I'm going to set my exterior front aside. I'm not going to work on anything on it until I get my piping made. I did go ahead and complete my zippers. So zipper ends 90-degree angle. I had to switch my zipper pull because that cheap one was really bad, so it's not going to work. I did add a zipper tab to the end of it. So I did measure to make sure that this zipper, now that I have it completed, ready to go, will not be caught in the seam allowance. If you remember, I said I might do a larger seam allowance on this wristlet just so it fits a little bit tighter. For what I need, it's a little bit smaller. But still yet, even if I do choose to use a larger seam allowance and the pattern is written for, I won't have any problems with this zipper fitting. So that's good. Zipper is ready. I am not going to attach it yet because I'm going to do a couple other things first to this lining. I'm going to add that slip pocket. The other thing I did while I was off camera was I just sewed the extra piece onto my wristlet strap. It looks great. Everything looks good there. I did do a 4-way fold onto it. And so now what I'm going to do first is I have the swivel hook on there. I'm going to take those raw edges from the short side, place it right sides together here at the top, open it up, clip it into place. After I have it clipped into place, I will sew this with the seam allowance given the pattern for this step. This does not need to be adjusted at all. The only adjustment I might make on seam allowance is right at the end. So there's that. I'm going to sew from one short edge all the way across the other. After I do that, then I'll just top stitch around the long edges and that will complete the wristlet. The other thing I will do is I'm going to go ahead and pull out the slip pocket pieces. Now this is going to be for the lining. I have the exterior for the slip pocket. I have the lining for the slip pocket. I am just going to place them right sides together. I'm going to sew all across this top edge. Now I'm going to use the same seam allowance that's given in the pattern for the other pieces, even though there's not a slip pocket in the pattern. I'm just still going to use that same seam allowance. For the measurements for this slip pocket, since it's not a piece given, the first thing I made sure that it would fit that lining piece. As far as how tall I cut it, honestly guys, I just used what was left from my exterior print. This was pretty much all I had left, so that's how I determined the size. That's also why you'll see the lining be that different print and why I couldn't do all of it in one print, because I ran out. So I did not pay any special attention to the measurements for that slip pocket. But what I'll do is I'll just sew across that top edge and then I will iron it flat, press it wrong sides together, and then we'll come back, top stitch it, and attach it to this lining piece. Another thing I'm going to do while I'm sewing, I'm going to pull out that piece of zipper tape, not the top main, but the one for that back zipper pocket. And I'm going to pull out one of those lining pieces. This is a technique, if you've watched other videos, that you've seen me do lots of times. I am just going to place this lining and this zipper together, and then I'm just going to sew with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way across here, and that will get these two attached. I know these are a lot of steps. It might feel a little overwhelming to do these all at once, but this just kind of helps me get excited about sewing up this wristlet and getting it done. I get rid of a lot of pieces all at once, and so I feel like motivated to go ahead and hurry and finish it. So like, oh, I'll do it later. So that is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start with this lining piece attached to the zipper. We're going to set that aside. Let's move on to the wristlet and sew across those short edges and then top stitch all around. Just opening it up now, folding it back together like the way I had it. You shouldn't need to re-iron. It should be able to just pop right back into place just the way it was. I will put a clip right there, match up those seams. I always like to start sewing right below where this wristlet, where this swivel hook is, so that way I don't have to be fighting and chasing it. And I wanted to go ahead and secure that seam too, so that's why I moved it. And I'm just going to go ahead and do an 1/8 inch away all along the long edge of this wristlet strap on both sides. Okay, so I just finished sewing on around these long edges, top stitching. I'm just going to pull my swivel hook to where that seam is, and I want the seam just a little bit below it. And so you can see here's the seam and here's where the swivel hook, and now I'm just going to top stitch once to secure this in place, and then I'll go ahead and add the rivet like I said off camera. This is done except for that snap, and I'll do the rivet snap off camera, and I'm setting this aside. Going on to this overlay, let's go ahead and do 1/8 of an inch away from the outside raw edge all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and choose to leave my threads long. Since I'm leaving my threads long, I will not be back stitching. I will just be pulling them to the back and tying them off. I will knot the threads, I will add the rivets, I will cut away this extra in the middle off camera, and we'll come back and we'll do the next steps on this. And the last thing I'm going to do before I go off camera and complete some stuff is to sew these two pieces of this slip pocket together along that top edge. Actually, let me make sure that's the top edge. My print is slightly directional. Yes, that is the top edge. Going to open up this seam and go over to the iron, and I'm going to butterfly and press it flat, and then put it wrong sides together and press it again. And when we come back, we'll do the next steps with all these pieces. Finish the strap, put a rivet on there so it's taken care of. I also went ahead and pressed the seam open on this slip pocket and then folded it the right way, so now they're wrong sides together. I'm just going to top stitch all along this folded edge here. I'm going to do that. I am also going to take this piece that we sewed, and I'm just going to open that up. I'm going to press that seam down flat, and then I will also sew this while I'm here, and I'm just going to do 1/8 of an inch to tack down the zipper tape and the seam to the wrong side, or to this lining, I guess I should say, not wrong side, because it'll be tacked down on both sides. So these are the two steps I'm going to do next. Now for this piece, this is going to be the one that goes to my back. I do have my rivets in, so everything's good to go there. I want to attach that other lining piece exactly the same way, add my zipper pull, and then I can put it to the back. So I'm going to go ahead and add the second piece to the zipper off camera, but I will come back to show you how I'm going to add it to the back exterior. Before I do that though, let's go ahead and finish up the lining. I'm going to take this slip pocket, and I'm just going to make for sure I have it centered there on the lining piece. And I didn't round these corners, I just cut the pieces. So I'm going to clip this in place, and then I'm going to go from the wrong side and baste everything around, just so I have this all secured, and then I'll trim up those corners or round those corners. I'm just going to baste it 1/8 of an inch away just to get this all attached. Just going to go ahead and round those corners and trim up any overhang I have. So this is what the slip pocket looks like now. I did decide that I wanted to do one skinny division on this side. On the other lining side, I think at first I said I was going to leave it open, but I think I'm going to do a division down the middle on that one. You can choose whatever you want. This small division for me will be for my debit card and my driver's license. Whenever I'm shopping, that's where it'll be. The card will completely fit in there, so I really feel like it'll be secure. This is an easier way to do it than credit card slots, and I only have the driver's license and debit card that I ever carry with me, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, I'm not measuring. I know about the basic size of what those cards are, so I'm not going to measure it, but I am going to start at the bottom. I'll back stitch here and go down to the top. Sewing from the bottom up just ensures that I won't have any problems with the fabric pulling, and it just is a neater sew that way. So make sure you back stitch here and go all the way down. Now, even taking into account my seam allowance, I still should have plenty of room for my credit card slots to fit in there, but I will go and test this off camera just to make for sure I'm not being confused on my measurements. I'll leave this part big. That'd be a perfect place for my phone to fit into, and whenever I'm not using it inside the store. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out to make sure if that placement's correct. I'm also going to sew up the other sides for this zipper pocket, and I still haven't cut out that piping, so I need to do that as well. So here's my back. There's that back pocket. I've got both of my linings done, so they are ready to go. I have my exterior, my zipper, and my wristlet, and I finally cut my piping and got it ready to go. So now we're just going to put everything together. I'm going to set these two pieces aside, and we are going to set the linings aside for just a minute. I'm going to attach this piping to the exterior front. So whenever you're doing piping, the main thing to remember is, first off, is the raw edges will match up, and the size of your piping will depend upon the size you cut it and your seam allowance. So my piping is kind of wide because, like I said, I did decide to use a wider seam allowance. So if I would only use a really skinny seam allowance, you can see my piping would be showing quite a bit. But since I'm using a larger one, I'm just going to have pretty much a normal amount showing. So that is the first thing you have to decide, your seam allowance and then how much piping you want showing. The second thing I'm trying to decide is if I want to kind of veer my piping to where it goes out of the sides here. I have thought about that, especially the way I'm going to leave the others, like it might look nicer. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep it easy on myself, because that'd be a little harder making sure I have it kind of coming in at the right angle on both sides. So I'm just not going to do that today. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to go all the way up to the top, match up those raw sides all along here, and I'm just going to sew with a basting stitch. So the way I made this piping was I took that pre-made piping that I bought. I got that big spool off Amazon. I'm almost used it up now. And I just wrapped this piece around it. Now you can buy cotton cording. I actually have some already here. So after I use up this other little bit that I have from Amazon, I'll just be making my own. And so I just wrapped it around it. I use a glue stick to kind of secure it, and I just iron this in there so that it kind of stays a little bit, but it would easily come apart if I left it. Now you can see here on my curve, I'm having just a little bit of like it standing up. I'm not worried about that because I'm going to come in with a much tighter seam allowance whenever I do that final stitching, and it should be just barely peeking through and not really any big wrinkles to really note. But if you are worried, you can make small snips into your piping to help it to spread and lay easier. But I truly do think when I come back with that full seam allowance, I won't have any issues. So now that I have that completed, I'm going to go ahead and pull out one lining piece, and I'm going to attach these together with the zipper. At this point, we're basically going to do just a regular zipper pouch. And so I'm going to start with my lining right sides up, my zipper tape right sides up. And let's see, when I do, I need to have it this way, don't I? So that when, let me make sure I have my mind orientated correctly with how it's going to open. Yep, that's perfect. So I always want to make sure I double check, but since this is going to be right side up, my zipper actually looks like it's going the wrong way, but once I put the exterior on here, the front, it'll be the right way. So I'm just matching up all along this long edge, making sure that zipper is centered on top of that lining piece. I'm going to baste it in place. I'm going to now add my lining, place that lining piece right sides together, match up your sides, your top, your bottom, everything should match, and let's just go ahead and sew all the way across with the full seam allowance, which basically you can't get. I'm going to basically be sewing as close to the zipper teeth as possible, making sure I keep those edges aligned at the top. I'm just going to kind of pull these two apart from the zipper and kind of have it to where the seam, the lining is not showing here at that seam, and that seam's on top, and I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away. Now while I'm sewing this, I'm going to be making sure to pull the panels away from that zipper. Just kind of pull and make sure it's tight so I get a really nice seam allowance, and so that the lining, it has a tendency to want to creep up in the back, and you do not want that. This section here is a little bit bulky. I will go ahead and tell you that. It's not giving my machine any problems, but it's just where I kept the fleece in the seam allowance. It's a little bit bulky there. So this is what these two pieces look like. We're going to do the same thing with the other side. The back piece is to attach here on this side of the zipper, but before we do that, we got to finish up those back pieces. So the way we have to do that is we pull out that exterior piece, lay our zipper to where the teeth are right in the middle of that box we cut out. This time we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the raw edge of that zipper box, the overlay. We're going to make sure that our lining pieces are kind of centered so that we have the exact same amount on both sides. I can see that the zipper teeth are in the middle, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly start stitching 1/8 of an inch away. So my zipper is attached to the overlay. All I need to do now to finish that is to pull these pieces down. And if you took the time to have your top longer than your bottom, you wouldn't have overhang. I didn't really care to fool with it so much, so I'll just trim out the end. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these around all three sides to close up the zipper pocket. If you wanted to, you could choose to leave your bottom open and turn underneath there, but I just don't want to put any extra stress on my overlay, so I'm not doing that, and I'm just going to turn like the pattern tells us to do, which is through the lining, so I'm not going to worry about it. So all I'm going to do is sew all around those three sides to close up this pocket, and then I'm going to trying to decide how big of a pocket I want to leave. I want to keep it plenty out of the seam allowance, but then I'll give myself a little bit bigger of a pocket. And I'm going to close this up and trim everything down. And then off camera, I'm going to attach this back exterior and back lining to the zipper the same way I did the front two pieces. My wristlet's looking great. I'm so excited to get this finished. So what I need to do now is, well, first I'll just show you. Here's the two exteriors. So this is from the exterior side. This is from the lining side. Everything's ready and good to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to unzip my zipper about halfway. I like to keep the zipper about halfway, and I'll go ahead and move this one just a little bit, because I don't want to worry about hardware getting in the way. I'm so focused on making sure I sew properly, get a good seam allowance and everything, that I don't want to have anything extra to worry about. So now what I do is I go ahead and pull the two exteriors together. We're going to just clip all around, matching up all the edges. We're going to do that same thing for the lining. So this is the way it'll look, exteriors and linings together. Whenever I'm at the seam, for the one seam, it won't be a problem because it'll be open. Let's look at that one first. So this one we really don't have to worry. It's going to just go the way it wants to go, and so I'm just going to kind of push it flat, and I'm going to have the teeth up. So here is the exterior, and the teeth are facing the lining. So I'm just going to put a clip there to kind of hold that in place. So for the other side, with that zipper tab, that creates some bulk and it kind of fights me a little bit, so I have to just push a little bit harder. but I'll still push in like the teeth going towards the lining, even though it won't be like really a perfect fit because that zipper tab will stop at that bulk. So what we're going to do is we're going to clip all around, and then we're just going to sew all the way around, but we're going to leave that opening in the lining. That's where I'm going to turn mine. So what I'll do is I'll start sewing on one side of the lining, back stitch, and then go all the way around and come back to the other side, back stitch again, and then I'll turn it out, and then we will close up the opening in the lining. Couple of notes before we start sewing: make sure you don't sew your zipper pocket down. It won't be a big deal, but just no point in having that in there. It should not catch on your seam allowance, but just make note of that. Also, if you added piping like I did, I will just kind of be feeling along to make for sure I'm not kind of getting that crinkled or bunched up and it's laying the right way, where mine was kind of bigger since I'm taking a bigger seam allowance. I am definitely second guessing my thoughts to keep the fleece fully in the seam allowance and add piping. Definitely created some extra bulk here. I'll probably will have some bunching, maybe some ugly corners right here where the two seams meet. It's okay, it'll be all right, but I do think it might have been easier for me and maybe end with a better looking bag at the end if you keep that out of this area. Definitely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim up my seam allowances, and I'm going to take the time to turn everything right sides out. I'll definitely make sure I check my piping to make sure I caught everything appropriately and I don't need to restitch everything. Then we will come back and look at the bag and close up our bottom. And I sewed both the exteriors and linings together separately, and then I turned it through the opening in the lining and I have it clipped. I also have the exterior clipped. I definitely recommend not leaving the bulk at this spot here if you're doing piping, because it is so thick. That's why I grabbed these clamps, and I thought, well, I'll just clamp all around, but it is like so thick. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not going to redo anything. I'm just going to let it be, but it is definitely thicker than I would have wanted, but it's okay. You make mistakes. But all I'm going to do now is just sew about 1/8 of an inch away to close up this bottom, and then I'm going to tuck it in. Here is my finished hacked La Clarita. This is my official entry into the contest that Kimberly is running over in her Facebook group. I think it turned out really well. I really do like it. I am going to add my grommet, and I'm going to add it probably about right here, I think. Now I could just be lazy and I could just clip it right here. The only reason I'm hesitating with just clipping it right here is because I feel like, what if I'm wanting to keep it on my wrist and still open it? Will that be aggravating? You know what I'm saying? It really wouldn't, would it? No more than usual. What would you do? I might not add the grommet right now because of the extra bulk. Look, this is my extra bulk problem. You can see how that is gapping open quite a bit. Now I can pull my zipper down, but that's just not what I typically like a bag to look like. It's not a good finish. It's okay. I made the mistake of leaving everything in there, but that's the only problem on this side. It's not that bad with the zipper, but, and you can see from the top it looks really cute. So it's not the worst way, but I definitely would suggest leaving your fleece out of your seam allowance, especially here, and probably just be better to leave it out all the way around. But I think it looks great. I'm debating, and I think right now I'm going to wait and not add the grommet. I may do it later, but for right now I think I'm just going to leave it clipped here and kind of decide if I feel like that would cause problems where it is so thick on that seam. I don't know, but I still have my gate ring. I can still add the gate ring here at this spot, but I'm just not for sure on that. That's the thing when you hack a pattern. You're first when you kind of make those choices and you're not for sure which way to go. Other than that, It definitely is going to fit my phone easily. It's the perfect size, honestly. I think it's great. Definitely it's going to be what I use to carry anywhere I go. It's just going to be super convenient for me. This will be the spot where I put in, like if I want to just slip in my debit card after I pay for something, or any change I have, anything like that. This is just a quick place to stick it so I don't have to be digging around for things in there. Really, really like it. So this is the La Clarita from Puntillas Y Nudos. This is the official entry into the contest she's running. I'm using fabric from J&R Edwards, and I used the front clear vinyl pocket for this hack. That's what I did. You will see me post this in the group. You will also see if I decide, which right now I'm leaning towards no grommet. And maybe after I use it a couple of times, I might be like, no, I need to add a grommet. That's the good thing about the grommet, is you can always add it later if you want to. Yeah, not for sure. Anyway, I'm rambling. And so this is the finished version as I'm filling it right now. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Thank you for taking a risk with me and just kind of hanging out while I try to figure out my very new wristlet that I will be using, and a new hack, a new way to use the La Clarita pattern. Templates are available, patterns definitely going to be listed in my description, fabric, everything will be listed there. And if you have any questions or concerns, just let me know. But I hope today you're able to sew something that helps you in your day-to-day life, not something that doesn't have an intended purpose or use, something that you can get immediate use out of today and still is beautiful. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.